environment, with the wisdom of hindsight and all your knowledge, if you are 25 years younger and you had tons of money and you were starting a startup, what are the key things that you'll keep in mind while using those resources?
First, I hope I won't have tons of money. This notion that funding or money equals success is the biggest myth, I think. I really think bootstrapping my company for the first few years, what it taught, I would not undo that. I think companies that I have seen, and of course we have two stalwarts here, we have built great businesses. What I would tell myself, what I would tell anybody who's starting out is, you have to build anything step by step. Don't be in that hurry and don't be in it for the external validation. And lot of times, the bright lights, the shiny lights out there, sometimes can misguide you to your true purpose. So finding a way that you are deeply rooted and continuing to think about what am I doing and what are the risks I can take to scale next, but how do I do that without so-called betting the shop, right? So sometimes when you raise too much money, I think you lose that balance and lose that perspective from my opinion. So I think 25 years ago, if I was 25 years old, I'd love to be in that place to build a business. I remember once like this, interviewing Mr. Tata, and he said, if only I was younger, this is the golden age of entrepreneurship, you know? So I kind of feel that way because I built companies in a different time. I think there is a incredible movement we have from a generational opportunity in India. And, you know, I'd love to be an entrepreneur today, but I'd love to have a decade, maybe 2 decades, to build something that's worth building, build something that has a longevity and a purpose and an impact.
And I'm going to put this to all three of you now, but just probing you a little bit further, because often where we are, we have the wisdom of hindsight. Was there a moment when you got blinded when you were coming along during the early days? Was there a moment that you got blinded which you come back and think up and say, look, I ought to have been more careful at that time?
You know, I grew up in a very, very grounded, middle-class South Indian family. So it doesn't work very well in translation, but it was always, don't let your head get too big. That was kind of the thing. If you got a good grade, if you achieved anything, you know, it would be drilled into you to keep your senses together. I want to hear from everybody, but I'll tell you, I sold my company in April of 2000, and most people here are young, too young to understand the significance of it. It was just before the internet bubble, not because I was so smart or whatever. My entire board was telling me, let's go public, we'll be $5 billion, we'll be $10 billion, and we had my neck on the line. How do I sustain that valuation, you know, in future? So we ended up selling the company for cash, which was a smarter decision you could make just before a bubble. You keep the cash, you know, that's that, right? So fortunately, the biggest gift I have received is my upbringing, that somewhere I think always kept me grounded to not take, you know, the externalities or even myself too seriously.
Interesting that you say that. Srikanth, if you had more hair on your head and it was black and you're 25 years younger, exactly the same one's coming to you as well. So tell me what you would have done.
So there's one thing probably I would tell myself. I have this notion called the 3X rule. The 3X rule basically in my mind is if you plan a business and saying it will take you this long, it will take you so many people to build this company, and it will take you so much of money to build this company, you normally require 3 times that. 3 times the time, 3 times the number of people, 3 times because as an entrepreneur, generally you are optimistic. Otherwise you won't be an entrepreneur. You have to be slightly mad also to be an entrepreneur, I guess. But so this 3X rule I've seen work for me, because generally when we try and plan, and you don't know all the improbables when you're planning at 0, right? At level 0. So there are a lot of, you know, unknowns, and you tend to over-optimize on some of those. So if I were 25 years younger, I'd tell myself, don't plan for X, plan for 3X. 3x money, 3x. But The second rule I would tell myself is going back to what Vani was saying, and I completely agree. I would delay fundraising as much as I can. Not because of two, three things. I think that you just said it when we were speaking before, right? I mean, bootstrapping teaches you much more than fundraising ever will, right? And you don't learn from successes, you only learn from failures. So the more you trip, you fail, and then you learn that much faster, and then you use that to climb up higher. So that is something which is very, very valuable again. So I would delay it so that my company is larger and I can also dilute lesser for raising money. So these are the two things that I would.
Yeah, I can't take credit for that wisdom because it's Javed Saab of Salim Javed who says that success has destroyed more people than failure has. Before I go to Sudhanva, is there a personal anecdote of failure that helped you understand the value of it and in your journey, and something when you look back which you turn around and say, wow, this is the lesson that I learned at that time and this is very important for any person getting into the ecosystem to keep in mind?
Yeah, it's a longish answer, but since now you have asked it, I will have to say it. So this was 2015, sorry. We had raised Series A. We were really doing well at home lane, and we were looking like we were getting to, 4 times, 5 times last year's revenue, every year 3, 4 times. I told the board gave me approval to raise $50 million, 50. I kept account 148 VCs. I think probably met people who are not, maybe not even VCs, I thought they were maybe. I got 147 no's, and I got one person to fund us for $2 million. It was probably the most humbling experience that I've ever gone through, but it taught me more things than I learned to run a business far more frugally than I ever planned for. And it really, really did help me later. Now, what had happened at that time also was my internal investors had already supported me by giving me some money during that 1 year. 148 VCs I met over 1.5 years. So they had given me a bridge. And that bridge, for whatever reason, was priced at a certain price. Now, when the new investor came in, he refused to put in money at that price. He said I would put money at a much lower price. The one big decision that I took at that point in time, I don't know, I don't want to take numbers, but I decided that, I was to convert my internal investors' money at a higher price and the new investors' money at a lower price. I refused to do that. I converted both at the lowest price. But how much that has helped me, even though I diluted much, much more than I ever thought I would. So temporary pain, but next 4-5 years, when COVID hit and all the other stuff happened, these same investors literally stood by me through thick and thin because they knew that, we had also displayed the kind of, at least the governance that we should display. I didn't think I was doing anything great, frankly. I thought it was only fair. But obviously, doesn't work always fairly. So
you don't know what's happening on the other side of a disruption. So give us some Mysorean wisdom, Sudhanva sir. The Bengalurians talk, but the Mysoreans are wise. It's on. Just start speaking.
Yes, a Mysorean entrepreneurial perspective to what both of you said. I also, rewinding 25 years, I believe I raised VC money too early. I should have spent a lot more time bootstrapping the business before going and raising VC money. And because you raise VC money too early in the business, and you haven't proved a lot of things which you otherwise should prove to raise VC money, you end up diluting more than what, in hindsight now, I think I should have diluted. And that is a cascade effect until you've exited your last investor. So I raised VC money, exited VC, raised PE money, PE, private equity money, and exited private equity. The initial giving away of the shareholding, the valuation at which you exit your first investor sets a lot of expectations for subsequent investors to come in. And for a promoter, particularly early stage and out of Mysore, it is important not to rush into raising money. Instead, I would have liked to focus my energy and time on building the fundamentals of the business, building solidity into the business, growing it to a certain stage before seeking capital. Build, get customers on board, build relationships long-term with customers. So, rewinding 25 years, I would think the first 10 years I should have done that rather than chasing capital.
How do you decide that? How do you decide this is the stage, I'm done, I'm moving into getting in money? Is it just the circumstances and the environment around, or is there something that's intuitive and instinctive that a founder can develop to know when is the right time to do this?
Yeah, two perspectives to this. One is at that time when I raised VC money, it was fashionable to raise VC money. So you get carried away sometimes, and as Srikanth said, you go and do a roadshow with 100 potential VCs, and maybe you will get 4 or 5 interested, and hopefully you will get one to fund you. So that's one perspective. The second one was, I'm based out of Mysore. 25 years ago, a company, a startup was not even a very well-known name at that point in time. We were in thinking 3 years behind Bangalore, and the best practices of fundraise and building a business in Bangalore, even though we are less than 3 hours away from a travel time.
It's 1 hour now, sir, because of the expressway.
1 hour because
and I live in Kengeri, so I live closer to Mysore than to Bangalore.
Yes. So there was that gap, and I wish we spent a lot more time closing in on the gap and learn the best practices of not only doing business, but also about fundraising and all other associated aspects of the business. So two perspectives to that.
Interesting. So you're saying don't be in a rush to raise funds,
Yeah.
but is it an advantage to be in Mysore over being in Bangalore? Because you have an overview. When you see a business and its growth, you're not part of the blinding lights so much when you're outside of it. Is there an advantage there?
No, actually, I wish when I did this startup, I was active in Bangalore, and this is a great place to network, great place to meet a peer group, learn from them, learn from first generation entrepreneurs to meeting VCs and others. You learn a lot being in Bangalore when compared to being in Mysore. But of course, being in Mysore has its own advantages. As long as you're okay to travel, depending on the kind of business you build. I built a business where most of our customers are overseas. So there was the dependency on Bangalore was you have to travel to Bangalore to catch a flight to go anywhere else. But when you start looking at the customer ecosystem we wanted to build, and it was largely overseas in many other countries, it was okay to be in Mysore, except that you have to travel to Bangalore to catch a flight. And also, it helps to be in a place like Mysore where quality of life, I mean, this is kind of a rhetoric, quality of life is better and stuff like that. But I do miss not being in Bangalore during the first 10 years of my business, because I missed out on a lot of learning opportunities.
The learning opportunities, well, it comes with peer pressure, but learning opportunities as well. Vani, when we look at Instagram generation, everything is instant. You want instant success, you want instant growth. Often you tend to get focused on short-term gains over long-term losses. How does a startup or a founder deploy the money they have to make sure that this is sustainable in the long run, because you're going to go through phases where you're going to get money, you're going to go through phases where you're not going to be able to raise money. How do you prepare, be prepared for the long term? Key things that you keep in mind.
So before I answer that, I do want to share one perspective. You know, this somewhat the conversation we had, second guessing, what would I have done different? I think in most ways is an useless exercise, because you know, at that time you did the best decision you knew, given the data, given who you were, given that time, right? And one of the things, most important thing, no matter what decision, personal, professional, whatever, is to live life today with no regrets and no looking back, right? And I raised, I think my first startup in 1996, I raised $150,000 and gave up 15% of the company, and I've never regretted it, because I learned a lot through that process of what it took to build a business, right? Ownership, all of that. I mean, life gives you many more chances. You don't have to optimize everything here and now. Had I not done that then, I wouldn't be here today. So everything is a connecting dot to reach here. To think that somehow we could have bypassed that and be here is, you know, just a foolish exercise. So one of the things that I suggest to anyone, including my children, is make the best decision you know how today, and then just let it be. Don't look back with regrets. It's not, you give yourself that credit. You made the best decision you could, given your circumstances, given the market, given whatever. You can't optimize life to the nth degree. You can't live your life on an Excel spreadsheet, you know. In many ways, when I was moving to India, everyone said, why would you give up what you have here and go there, right? And today I can tell you it's the best decision. Excel spreadsheet wouldn't have said that to me. Excel spreadsheet wouldn't have made any sense. Why come here in 2006 when there is no startup ecosystem, there's no VC ecosystem, when you're doing reasonably well where you are? So don't live your life on Excel. That's, you know, my suggestion. And it's the same thing about instant gratification, long-term money. See, we all have different relationship with money, and we have to understand what that is. And again, a lot of the startup journey or any journey is a sense of self-discovery. We each are different. As yesterday, I think it was Siddharth who said, everyone comes with a different factory setting. You just have to figure out what is your factory setting. Somebody has a different risk. This notion of crash and burn or build sensibly, it really depends on you. Certain businesses, maybe it's okay to crash and burn. Maybe some businesses you build sensibly, but you have to build it your way. It's your story, your journey, you know. So now, I always built my businesses at least saying, I don't want to run out of money, have my employees who have a lot of their responsibilities to be left having put their trust in me on, you know, dumped with my foolishness or my choices, right? So I always raised money and modulated my spend to have at least 18 months, if not 24 months runway. So when I see founders come to me and say, I'll raise this money and I run out of money in 6 months, and I'm like, it makes no sense, because that means I'll give you money today and tomorrow you have to go and fundraise again, because any funding will take 6 months. So this is, I can't tell you how many times I hear this. I'll raise this money and in 6 months I'll go for fundraising again. But you wouldn't have proven anything in that time period, you know. So the and hence I might as well just keep my money with me rather than, you know, anyway lose it, if that's indeed what you are going to do, right? So you have to formulate your value system and your boundaries of risk and boundaries of principles by which you are going to live, principles by which you are going to build your business. And I think one of the most important thing is to treat cash that you have with respect.
Treat cash with respect. Srikanth?
No, completely. I think definitely for a startup which is not yet profitable, and most startups take some time to get to profitability, clearly cash is king. I think if I can probably take one example at Home Lane, which kind of put us in that situation, which I'm sure many businesses did during COVID. For example, got into March of 2020 with about, at that time on paper we had 12 to 18 months runway, going back to what Vani was saying. But then COVID hit and that 12 months or 18 months became 6 months. Because our business is a consultative selling business. You meet people, we do home interiors, so you meet people and it's a touch and feel business. So you couldn't meet people at all. But what we had probably thankfully done then is we had built a platform where we could meet customers virtually without actually physically meeting them and sell interiors to them. So what we said, let's use this, completely flip this around and use this problem as a huge opportunity. That brings me to a very nice quote I heard at that time. The Formula One driver, Ayrton Senna, I don't know how many of you are fans here, but he made a very nice quote. He said, when it's bright and sunny, it's very difficult for you to overtake 10 cars. But when it's really pouring and sheeting down, you can actually overtake 10 cars in a Formula One race. And so that's what kept me going and said, hey, you know what, it is sheeting down right now. Why not let me put my foot on the accelerator? So we realized that customers were also twiddling their thumbs. You couldn't go out of your house and buy milk, for God's sake. So what are you going to do sitting at home for 24 hours? So we said, hey, you know what, come on to our platform, design your house for free and book it by paying a small money. If after we open the showroom, whenever that is, we give you 2 weeks, you can cancel it, no questions asked. The first 3 months of lockdown in 2020, when Modi ji announced March 22nd, we started selling on April 1st. The first 3 months, we sold 60 crores worth of kitchens and wardrobes without meeting a single human being.
Wow.
That opened my eyes completely,
Wow.
right? So we said, this one of how you can use like a situation completely and overtake those 10 cars in the rain.
You're the Ayrton Senna of what? The startup world. No, but Ayrton Senna was a great rain driver, but that doesn't fit for everyone, right? In
Yeah.
rain, you need to be a great rain driver. COVID brought a very different experience for you.
Yes. COVID was a time when we saw exponential growth because our business is about delivering tests, high-stakes tests online, like the GMATs of the world, and learning online. COVID meant that it moved to being able to take tests from home, different types of tests, whether it is civil services exams or whatever. We work in different areas and learn from home. So that meant that there was that inflection point where your business started growing. And thankfully for us, I think it also gave us time to sit back, think, and build a roadmap so that post-COVID, you still were relevant, not only relevant, you were seen as being ahead of competition so that you could sustain growth. So that's what COVID did to us.
Yeah, interesting that you say that. The one thing we are short of is time. It's already ticking down to 4 minutes 30. And I want to finally ask all three of you the one question that's important. We talk about investing money. I mean, for people like me, without money, there's no headache. But for those with money, when you're talking of investing and when there is a great up in life, there's a low in life that you go through as an entrepreneur, how do you stay grounded? Don't tell me yoga and meditation, but give me something beyond that. How do you stay grounded and remain sane through that journey? If you could start, then Vani and then Srikanth.
Yeah, I think for a promoter, founder, entrepreneur, it's important to maintain equanimity. There will be successes, there will be wins, and don't get super excited because you win something. Don't get super disappointed if you lose something. It's absolutely important for the founder to maintain that equanimity truly and internalize it, and also make sure that the team understands that it's not always a winning game. Doing business is about going through ups and downs until you stabilize and see a growth trajectory. So that's how I look at what should be done.
And it's a daily challenge to keep yourself grounded.
I think you did this question deliberately, Veera Raghavan. Okay.
Veera Raghav.
We had this banter going on. But, you know, listen, for the last 30 years, I start every day my morning with meditation. And absolutely, please embrace it. It's life-altering. At least for me, it was. I don't think I could have gotten through the highs and lows of the startup, or even just having a very young family when I just started my company. I think my first daughter was 2 years old, and then the second one was born a few weeks before a roadshow, and I did a roadshow with a 6-week-old traveling with me. So whatever, you know, we all have our share of the curveballs life throws. So you need something that gives you a perspective beyond yourself. It's very easy to get narcissistic about our own problems, and misery loves company, and when you kind of look at, you know, broader world. So I do think that for me at least meditation is very grounding, and as is my yoga. I practice Ashtanga quite intensely, so both are very important anchors in my life. So I cannot say, you know, that they don't matter, but in a larger context, whatever it is that gives you a fullness of a perspective, that kind of takes you out of this scope, that could be, you know, golf, Formula One, reading, whatever it is, I don't know, brewing beer. So whatever that is that floats your boat, but you have to be more, your identity cannot be just this company. That's where when some things go down, you feel like there is nothing else left to you, and that is not true. All of us are more than this one success, and all of us are definitely more than this one failure. So having a more holisticness to your life through family, through community, through hobbies, through just self-indulgence, I think is very important, and I advocate for it, and I don't apologize for it. I think you need to sort of have more in your life than just your work.
What's the home lane advice to keep the startup home grounded?
So
Meditation and yoga.
I have some counterintuitive advice which I practice actually. I try to stay detached as much as I can. Obviously you can't stay detached too much, but I try and switch off. I actually try and look at any situation. Normally there are some situations which you get consumed by, which bother you, which whatever, right? So I try to look at it from everyone's perspective, including the person, maybe the opposing party, because there is a reason why somebody is doing what they're doing, right? I mean, and there's a logical reason. So you can only see that if you are detached. If you are so involved, if you are so consumed by whatever you're doing, you'll never see any other point of view. And so detachment is, I think, very important. You can do detachment in many ways. I don't do yoga, but I play tennis every day morning. I play at least one set. I'm super competitive there, but I'm detached after the set is over. I don't, I think detachment works. Sounds, counterintuitive, but it definitely works for me.
Yeah, it does. I think the first thing is to detach yourselves from the phone, because that can be a pain. But before this turns into an art of living or a Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev kind of conversation, I think we'll wrap it up now. Thanks so much to all three of you. Fascinating conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.
Thank you.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a huge round of applause for our eminent panelist, Srikanth sir, Sudhanva sir, thank you so much, and Mr. Veera Raghava. So I can take that. I can take that for you. Thank you. Oh, so this is attendance time, Raghav sir. Well, most of our speakers said they have got a flight to catch, but as Veera Raghava is from Namma Bengaluru, he has got a metro to catch because he has got a show at 7 o'clock. Thank you so much once again for your patience in accommodating and staying here. Vani ma'am, I request you to stay back because we have a report to be launched. For that, I would like to call upon once again Dr. Deepak Chopra, founder of the Chopra Foundation. And Vani ma'am, kindly remain on stage. Oh, there you are. And they will be launching Kalari Capital Report. It's on India Alpha, the decade of opportunity. Vani ma'am, will you take over from here?
Yes.
Stage is yours.
Thank you, Chinmay. Yeah, sure. Thank you. Good evening. It's great that there are still people in the audience. I know it started early. It really, before we start the evening, it really is honor to be here. And I know in the last 2 days I've been here, and Madan and team have done a phenomenal job pulling this TGS together in Bangalore. And I know the first conversations we had, and sort of everyone has doubts and butterflies, can we do it? But this is a phenomenal success. Madan, I don't know if you're here or not. You and team deserve a bow, and congratulations. Since we are the last act, we can say that. So, you know, for me, it's been a joy to be in India the last 20 years and see the entrepreneurial ecosystem blossom and go beyond expectations, really, when I look back to the concerns and doubts and skeptics to whether India can really be an entrepreneurial nation to where we are today. But what I'm even more excited is what is ahead. I think that the next 2 decades are that golden era, which I think of it as a generational opportunity. And in my parlance, since we talk about alpha a lot in our industry, I look at this as the alpha movement for India. And of course, before we talk about other things, Mr. Chopra, your ability to transform profound and fundamental truths into something we can practice and be practical about has always inspired me. I want to share that with you. And I think thinking of leadership from a different perspective beyond, of course, creating value to your shareholders and profit and so forth, that it can be leadership with purpose. Purpose can be about giving beyond just your limited notion of your stakeholders. And these are some of the things in your talks that have impacted my thoughts on leadership and how at least I've tried to embrace it. So thank you for making us all better, right? And you know, what I wanted to ask you is, to me, as I said, I see this as India's alpha movement, and you have talked about the alpha state of mind, and of course, in a different context. And so I wanted to ask you, what can alpha mean, not just for an individual, but in the quest of a nation where India is today, for the betterment of all of its people? How does that principle apply to what we do entrepreneurially from at a level of a nation versus us as a self?
Okay, so I'll answer in 2 parts. Number 1, here's an acronym that you can remember for leaders, okay? Acronym LEADERS. Leaders.
Got it. Yeah.
Leaders.
Yes.
L stands for look and listen and create a vision, because you have to look and listen to the collective conversation and India's story in the collective conversation, which will be my second part. L. E stands for emotional intelligence. We all pretend to be rational, but we are creatures that are seething with emotions. And then we justify emotions with rationality. So learn to be empathetic and compassionate, and learn emotional intelligence, which means get in touch with your feelings, get in touch with the other person's feelings, and have a conversation which has no violence in it. E. A stands for awareness. This is where consciousness comes in. Harness the capacities for awareness, which is intuition, insight, imagination, and transcendence. D stands for dream it and do it. SMART goals, SMART. Stretch more than you can reach. Make everything measurable. Make sure your team agrees with you on what you're going to measure. And record your progress and set a time limit. Otherwise, it will remain a dream. It won't happen. The next E stands for empowerment, distributed empowerment. There's no one leader. Everybody's a leader in their own ecosystem. And that's the next frontier, distributed empowerment. R stands for take responsibility for your health, mental and physical. And if things go wrong, take the blame. If things go right, give credit to your team. And the last, most important, is synchronicity, which is good luck, which in India we call God's grace, but it means being prepared. Opportunity meets preparedness for synchronicity. So LEADERS. Now when it comes to the alpha moment for India, this is the right time, because people, and just for all of you entrepreneurs, people do not buy a product, they do not buy a service. They buy a story. So what's your story? If your story is convincing, the product will come by itself and the service will come by itself. India has the best story in the world. Never colonized the world and yet culturally influenced the world. The best storytellers, the best songwriters, the best movie producers, the best chefs, and the best fashion. India has culturally conquered the world already. Now with the technology coming and the people in Bangalore here, the technology center of the world, take our spiritual heritage and embrace the world. Vasudev Kutumbukam. We are now going to, medieval times are gone, where people conquered through weapons and military. The future belongs to a country that can embrace the world with its philosophy, with its culture, with its fashion, with its entertainment, with its science, with its technology. There's no other country in the world like that.
I think that inspiring perspective and insight, which is, each of us leaders in our own right, in our own movement, and ability to harness that. I want to take this opportunity. Kalari, over the last decade, has worked with over 100 visionary founders, and what I have seen is each of them, their authentic leadership and their stories is really where they have been able to maximize the impact. So this definitely resonates. And today, we want to share with you our notion of the tech decade ahead for India, and what that alpha opportunity is through innovation. And I think each of us, to be able to contribute to that movement, will have to find our inner alpha or inner leadership that Dr. Chopra put together so beautifully for us. So it would be a great honor to share the first copy of this report with you and unveil it for our audience here. If Priyanka, we can get the report. Just give me that. Okay. 1 second. So, sir, I have one more question for you. Since we are in the land of entrepreneurs in Bangalore, and I have seen you, of course, you're a coach, you're a teacher, you're a mentor, you're a guru, but I've also seen the side where you are an entrepreneur and you are an inspiring leader. So what's your advice in realizing leadership and to all the entrepreneurs here in fulfilling their destiny?
As an entrepreneur, please focus on one thing only. Joy is the only measure of success. If you're not joyful, no amount of success works. So joy is the only measure of success. And be disruptive as an entrepreneur. Don't be a copycat, because there's only one person who comes in the beginning and then everybody copies. So as an entrepreneur, be sure what you're embarking on joyfully is original.
Yes.
New story, new context, new relationship, death of the old paradigm and a resurrection of something that's brand new, because the copycats will come very fast. Okay, so be an expert in what you're offering as an entrepreneur. If you're not an expert, get a team that is expert. Be indispensable for the moment, and then shoot for the stars. Stretch more than you can reach. Otherwise, what's a dream for?
One more. But when you are in that moment of doubt, where do you find the courage? How do you find the courage?
I start every day with 4 questions. Who am I? What do I want? Not for myself, but for the world. What is my purpose? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Just to make money? No. Money will be a byproduct when you embrace the generosity of spirit. And finally, notwithstanding all the problems in the world, what am I grateful for right now? So who am I? What do I want? What's my purpose? What am I grateful for? And then take the risk, jump. Jump into the abyss. Don't hang in there on the ledge.
I don't think we could ask for a more beautiful ending and inspiration for our 2 days here together. And we are going to ask your indulgence to take a picture with our team, everyone who's a great admirer of yours. And this is a lifetime moment. So, yeah, please. This is the Kalari team, and I'm really proud to share this stage with them today. And thank you for allowing us to do that. Are we done?
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a huge round of applause. Let's congratulate and thank Kalari Capital for bringing this report.
Really appreciate it.
May I request everyone to kindly walk off stage from the center of the stage, please, because you know who is standing behind the stage and we don't want to crowd and there are a lot of securities. Can you please walk off the stage over there? Thank you. And kindly scan that QR code, download that report. We would like to thank once again Dr. Chopra. Your presence means a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up once again for Dr. Chopra. Vani ma'am, thank you so much for this report. I'm sure it's going to add immense value to us. Thank you. Thank you.